24/7. 24/7.
Bold Moves Radio.
Bold Moves Radio.
Afrika nakupenda sana. Oh, Afrika nakupenda sana.
Africa, nakupenda sana. You know, that is a beautiful, beautiful sound that I like the most because it is telling us that it is our African experience. It is that time where we are sitting, we're listening to the radio, we're watching, and we're listening to stories that inspires us. This is the African Experience Show. You are with me, Dr. Hlami Ngwenya. I'm not alone. I'm always with my beautiful, beautiful co-host, my partner in crime, Aventina Mabunda. Manda, good evening, my sister.
Good evening, Doc. It's nice to have you back on after some short while. I know you were out there changing the world, and maybe we should start with it. Tell us what you have been doing, but otherwise, I'm happy and I'm grateful for us to be having this show today again.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy, that we are together. I know, I mean, the past, 3 weeks, 4 weeks were hectic. And my body tells me now it's December. God, December. God, we just need to sit back and relax. I'm so happy. And yeah, and I'm so happy that, we are having this show, which is more or less, our last show for the year. And we are together to really think through and reflect on how the year has been like. And I'm so happy that we can have, that moment, to kind of, talk. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the African Experience. It's a show. I know you always look forward to having, the guests that inspire us with their stories. Tonight, we don't have a special guest, but we are having us who are a pair with a story. Mandla, it is very interesting. It has been a long year, and time and again, I go back through the shows that we had, not only in 2024, but when we started the show in 2023. I mean, it's been 2 years. The stories that we have profiled, the people, it just inspires me. It makes me look forward to waking up every day and say, you know what, if these people can do it, so can I. How is it for you? I mean, when you reflect on the stories that we have profiled so far.
Sure, Doc, I cannot really, even begin to comprehend the amount of work that has been done, the amount of people that we have profiled with the show African Experience, the amount of networks that we have actually created and managed to establish just in the past 24 hours, just using this as a platform. And honestly, Doc, the vastness of the type of guests that we were having on the show, for me, it stands out. We spoke to musicians, we spoke to poets, we spoke to directors, we spoke to doctors, we spoke to entrepreneurs, honestly, with the purpose of inspiring a small Black child so that they are proud of telling their African stories in their way, in their narrative. So honestly, today for me, it's a gratitude show. It's a time to look back, reflect, and see the amount of richness that we were.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Mandla, absolutely. And I like the diversity because the African Experience Show does not only focus on a certain, topic, but we are looking at people as people. And what I like about the show is that, we sometimes see people as professionals, we see people as entrepreneurs, as you have said.
Using a platform such as.
Yes, I was losing you a little bit there, Mandla. But what I was trying to say is that, sometimes we see people as people, we see them as professionals, we see them wearing, different hats. But what we do on the African Experience Show is to unpack, those layers and we go beyond what we see at face value. We talk to the person, we look at where they come from, we look at them and appreciate them as people even before their professions. We ask them about how their upbringing has been. We ask them what inspired them to actually choose the path that they are choosing. And what stands out for me is a lot of them come from very humble beginnings. A lot of them would always share that there is somebody who actually held my hand. There's somebody who had opened an opportunity for me. And for me, that is something where we look at Ubuntu in its totality. I am because you are. And I look forward, to actually going back with the help of DJ Messi just to remind us, some of, the stories that we captured. I'm really looking forward to that, man. Like it's such a I always look forward to this hour.
Yeah. No, true, Doc. When you're talking Ubuntu, that's a concept that is unique to Africa. So
Hmm.
already the African experience is able to bring that and make it practical. If you see, the concept of one of our own, it
Mm,
actually personifies one of our own concept, because if this one can do it, that comes
mm,
from this village where there was no TV in the entire village, but they
mm,
went on to perform on world stages, then I can do it. It almost takes away the issue of playing victim. It
absolutely.
always now reinforces the concept, Diago, your background can never and does not determine your future. So honestly, in the past year, it's interesting. And like you're saying, one question that would be common in all our guests was always, in a nutshell, tell
Mm,
us who you are. And like you're
mm,
saying, in most cases, there was no one who was born with a silver spoon in,
mm,
in, in their mouth. Everyone was coming from humble beginnings. There was someone who gave them the power to unlock the success that they have experienced. So I cannot
mm.
wait for us to dive in, and maybe we should do that, Doc. If DJ Messi has prepared that slide, let's dive in and talk about what stood out for us during the past 12 months.
Okay, I think we are ready for that. DJ Messi, thank you so much for putting together, the slides of all the people that we have profiled. So, Manla, what I want us to do so that we don't miss some. I want DJ Messi just to show us, and then we actually take it, one by one, and we unpack. Because if you were to ask me, which of the shows stood out for me? I wouldn't tell you. It's not possible for me to single out one guest to say, this person stood out for me. But what I can do is to look at what every guest brought to the table, and I can pick what stood out for me from that particular guest. Like you say in your introduction, that we profile different people, different walks of life, different experiences. So it's not even possible, or I think we will not be doing justice for us to say this person stood out, against, this one, because this is not what the show is all about. It is about, bringing, different, experiences, and people live their own experiences in their own way, and they were telling their stories in that way. On that note, I'll ask, DJ Messi just to show maybe some of, just show us, maybe one of the first, people or person that we profiled in January, I think, when we started, the season two. We can even say season two of the African experience. Hmm. DJ Messi, I would like you to maybe just show the slides so that we see who we are talking about. Man, I saw the slides in the background. It is rich. I think we had If you were to think about how many weeks we have in a year, and yo, there we go. On the 16th of January, I think that's when we started. We started with a Makaukani Ngobeni. Do you remember?
I remember Makaukani. What an interesting, what an interesting show we had.
Yeah, and you know what? Remember when we ask our guests, we also ask them to suggest the theme for the show. And for me, I just love the creativity. I remember her theme was "Money recognizes me, loves me, and stays with me." That for me stood out. Oh,
Yeah,
do you?
no, that was a beautiful one. I just loved the energy that she brought to her show. And you know, the way she actually presented interior decoration in a completely different light. I
Yeah.
just loved how she presented herself, and that stood out. And I hope we were able to inspire people to really visit her website and see the beautiful work that she's doing.
But from the theme of the show, how she relates with money. For me, and she kind of challenges an African child, say, no, don't be afraid, to relate positively with money. Let the money recognize you. Let the money loves you. And I'm a go-getter, and I go there and go where the money is, and I bring the service on the table. I've been watching
Mhm.
her from when she started some time back, and I follow her on social media, how she has grown, as a business, and the things that she does is so amazing. And I think it goes back to what you have just said, Mandla, to say, when you see somebody like this, somebody who looks like me, somebody who grew up in the same era that I grew up, somebody who went to a school where I went, not a private school, and if they're able to do this, it does inspire. It says, okay, if this person can do it, so can I. Ah, I just love
Yeah,
that.
no,
Hmm.
that was, it brings a smile to one's, face thinking about that. But you know what, Doc? I wonder if we'll have enough time. You know how an hour flies past
I know. Okay, so
whenever, before
we,
we know it, will be at past, and the next thing the show is done.
I know. I know. So you know what? Let's just go as far as we can, as much as we wanted, this. So let's just go as much as we can. DJ Messi, let's see, because I mean we're still in January. Oh my God. There we go. And we have, Bertha Lamini. She was also another trailblazer who visited our studio. That was, on the 23rd of January. My goodness. Her theme is "You are always good enough." I remember she was really talking to that young African who might be thinking they're not good enough. And she was saying, "You are always good enough." I remember she's working in the energy sector. It was just beautiful just to listen to her story. What
Yeah, I
stood
mean,
out for
Bertha,
you?
it's so inspiring. She dared to go against the grain. I
Mm,
mean, she's in energy, and now she does facilitation. She's just boss and owning that space. So for me, knowing that person at that level and how much she's admired by the world, and
mm.
knowing where she comes from, really for me was a personal inspiration even for me. And I hope we can go on and challenge the status quo and enter into places where traditionally we wouldn't be allowed to enter.
Yeah. Amanda, I'm already thinking perhaps we should put together, an African experience booklet of
Because
some
we
sort.
already have a classic example, a powerful example, I think.
Hmm, hmm, absolutely. Okay, so let's see our next
Yeah,
guest. Yeah. Wow, Mihloti Sibeko, the global business marketing and coaching. I remember when she was sharing about, the this entrepreneurial space that she's in, unlocking your entrepreneurial spirit, and how she left her 8 to 4 job, and she ventured into this, global, marketing and coaching space, and how she was talking about the digits, the the
Yeah.
monies that she's able to make and all that. And I'm like, yo, yeah. Hmm. I don't know if you remember her story. And you know what I do, Mandla? With all the people that we have hosted, I follow them on social media, just for me to continue to be inspired. And Mihloti is yet another one who, when I follow her on social media, she's bubbly, she's very inspiring. It's her story just goes on. You can see that she's not stopping anytime soon. That is so, 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 so important and beautiful. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Ooh, the advocate Marcia Davis. Mandla, advocate Marcia Davis, her theme was perseverance. Oh, this one challenged me a lot. She's in that, space, and she was talking about what pupillage or whatever, so we learn also the legal, language. But what stood out for me was when she was sharing how she aspired, to fly, not fly in a figurative, manner, fly literally. And then she was taking, this pilot kind, private pilot, lessons, and she was flying. And I'm like, you go, girl, you go, girl, somebody who looks like me, and they can be able to do that. Hmm. This African experience, it's so challenging for me in a positive way. And ladies and gentlemen, when I'm so down, and I don't know what to do, I just go back and listen to these stories and how they are sharing it, and it's so inspiring. Manda, I seems to have lost you, but give me an indication when you connect back. Ladies and gentlemen, Manda is connecting, and she's also, driving at the same time. So let's see the next guest. My goodness. Busisiwe Senzeni Nxumalo. What I liked about her, and I remember we profiled her just a day before Valentine, and she's actually raising a bar higher in terms of, NX, cakes. This woman, she's like the cake boss in her own right. I will encourage people to just visit her website and see the things that she's able to do with, her cakes and design. Amazing. Following her, looking at, if you, I know I've seen cakes that has like, like different designs, police uniform, it's theme cakes, and you name it. But the things that she's able to do. But what stood out for me, I remember we asked her a question: how big is your kind of, place where you are doing your cakes and all that? And she said, no, I'm actually doing it in my kitchen. And I'm like, okay. And she was challenging the notion that, for you to go to start, you have to start with a very big, place and all that. But she's starting small, and she's adhering to all, the food and safety, standards that are there. But she's starting small in a small, kitchen, and her one, oven, stove. And if you see the things that she's able to do, you will not believe that, it's something that is starting in a kitchen. I see this woman owning a very huge, factory, or maybe not a factory. I see her owning a very huge, bakery of some sort where she's actually doing this. She is really a cake boss in her own right. Let's see the next one.
You know, Doc, when it comes to this lady, the passion as well, and
Mm.
and her no die attitude. She did it all by herself until an extent where she could stand on her own and really run a business. That was very inspirational, yes.
Yeah, and the other thing that I picked, remember she said she started as a teacher and she
Mm.
couldn't get a job. Then she joined the police services and she felt okay now. And she had never baked before, but she just wanted to have a side hustle and she started and now she's actually flying. So let's go to the next one. I agree with you, Manda, that there's no way that we're gonna finish because we are still in February.
It's impossible, and it's almost half past
I know,
6.
I
Yeah, but
know.
let's push. Let's push.
We have Lilith Holworthy. I remember her theme was an accountability partner, the pillar for your success. I remember she does a lot of community outreach work in the areas where she is. She's also started, these online, kind of, book of some sort where she's profiling, people. It was such a beautiful, beautiful story. And what stands out for me is the selflessness of, the people that we profile, people like Lilith, who goes all out, to reach out, to other people. They put in their time to make sure that they uplift, the life of the next person. And this is what Ubuntu it's all about, and this is the African experience. Ladies and gentlemen, we are reflecting on the year that was 2024 in the African experience, and really reflecting on some of the guests that we hosted on the show. I don't think we'll be able to finish them. We are still in February 20th. You may recall that a week has got a month has got 4 weeks. So we're talking about every week of the month where we are bringing people to inspire us with their stories. Let's go to the next one. Okay, the next one, TJ Bessie. Mandla, here we have Riranzu Viola Madlope. Unleash the power within, navigating life's challenges with inner strength. What comes to mind when you hear or when you see Riranzu Viola Malope?
I remember I actually commented on how when you look at her, she looks like she's a very soft individual, very quiet, almost shy. But when she started talking to us and what she has been through, I mean, this is someone who have actually traveled to the other end of the world and come back and was messed up with all sorts of illnesses and what her undying spirit as well. Another thing that was common throughout when we were interviewing our people, Doc, it's remember we now had to coin it godly ideas. It seemed as if all of them were powered by some sort of a special power, and we ended up coining it, and the term really came from one of our guests as well, who said, sometimes what is pushing me is godly ideas. And it
Absolutely.
resonated with a lot of people. So when I remember Seserandu, I remember that she had this, fighting spirit in her.
Yeah, and I think what stood out for me is her unconventional way of even fighting, the challenges and stuff. And I remember she spoke about, the different cancers that she had and how she has found healing in alternative, way of dealing with her challenges, where I think I remember she became a life coach. She went, to, I don't know, is Dubai, and just to find herself. And all these experiences have actually led her into publishing a book. I think it was called Eating Your Cancer Away. That was the one. But also she had another book where she was talking about her experience after losing her partner and stuff like that. I would encourage people just to go look for African experience. And this is how you get to their podcast. If you go African experience and you just click the name of the person, you can be able to access, that information because it's still there. It's such amazing thing, and I follow her also on social media. I think I'm a professional mom gobozi, or maybe a professional stalker, but I only stalk, the people who have inspiring stories. Like you are saying, the undying spirit, that she has. It's just so amazing to see her navigating and rising up, against all odds. Let's go. Maybe then we're going to March. Oh, Mr. Jabu Baloy, the gender equality. He says, the gender equality will be achieved in our lifetime. The way he's so adamant that, we'll achieve, gender equality. Do you remember him, the spokesperson from the Commission for Gender Equality?
I do. Who can forget Mr. Jabu Baloyi? He was a ball of energy throughout. I remember we laughed from the beginning right until the very end. But what stood out for me was his undying faith. All the time he was referencing his church and the love for the church and how, family structure. That one was very fascinating for me to see because, again, part of the things that Africans are known for is that men do not really come out clearly, fighting for family, pushing family forward, fighting for human rights, especially women rights. So when we had him, he was just refreshing to listen to.
Yeah. Yeah, as someone who's also working in the gender space, I love it. I mean, in most cases, when you're thinking about gender issues, you already equate it to women. You think about women. But for me, Mr. Baloy, it's actually a true testament that, when you're talking about gender issues, it's not just about women. It's about, finding the balance. And when you're getting a person like him advocating for gender issues, and sometimes we listen to the statistics where they talk about the gender gaps and he's telling you that in our lifetime we're gonna achieve gender equality. You can see and you can feel the passion behind his work, and he just love it. I remember, yes, I remember he was just on fire. you know and thank you so much, Mr. Baloyi, for gracing our show, and you encourage us and remind us that definitely we will actually achieve gender equality in our lifetime. Okay, so let's get to the next one. Oh, Dr. Frederick Otro. No pain, no gain. That was his theme. Oh, he's a journalist, he's an author, he's an athlete. I just love this man. Dating back, from when we're still young, listening to him, he used to read, news, and they used to call it Radio Tonga back then, and then became Radio Mungana Lonene. What stood out for me is that, okay, and then he retired, and I mean, I think 60s, 70s, then he kind of, find his talent, the running talent. You remember? He literally found that in his 60s, I think, he said. 60s or 70s, and then he realized that actually he can actually run, and he took it and ran with this talent, and now he's one of the best runners, especially in what do they call it again? Like the older generation, the masters, athletes. He's running, he's getting, awards left, right, center. And I'm like, I'm 52, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking of going to run. And I'm like, oh, if he could start at his age and he master it, who shouldn't? Who could not?
Yeah, what stood out for me, Doc, I don't know if it was him, but I think it was him. He's the one who nominated you for the order, isn't it?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Actually, you're reminding me that one we need to actually bring him on board. The other one he's also a journalist. He was Mr. Benson Clemo.
Okay. I think because
Yeah.
they're colleagues, and also the story is similar because a journalist with Garalone and Radio Tonga and all that. But
Yeah.
that was a fascinating story, learning from the legends and how you are still relevant many years later.
Remember, he's an author. He has like a lineup of books. And there was a book called Samalanunga Magulatinho. And I was like, okay, what inspired that? You remember when he shared that when he published when he wrote his first book, I think he was being bullied, or I can't remember the story, but it came out in a very unusual way, and he ran with his talent of writing books. He has a collection of books, and he contributed to the Tsonga dictionary and something like that. Just the richness of his wealth of knowledge. And people, when you follow him on social media, he continues to educate. He posts a lot of information around places, around different things that it will be of interest for you. And I will encourage you to follow Dr. Freddy Rukotro. And because he comes from the Tsanin area, then he will say Mukotro wati mfutsu. It's like that. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Oh, hey, Mr. Charles Ngobeni. Footprints of a Legend, my journey nuggets towards your first million.
Yeah, this is another one that was inspiring for all aspiring business people. I remember vividly when he spoke about how he pawned his friend's car and then ended up getting another car from the garage. That story was just something else for me. It shows where there's a will, there's always a way. And he showed us that, you know what, coming from all sorts of humble beginnings, if you have the will, you can make a way. So that was what was outstanding about his story with us.
Yeah. No, I remember, and then he started being a teacher, and then he went into what was it again? I think he went into taxis, and then owning, these Wimpy franchise and all that, and then moving into farming and all that. Very versatile a person, and we were so happy to have him on our show. Mandla, are we not going to take the commercial break today? Let's let's just continue and see how far we get. Yeah. Okay. The next one. Oh, this one, Blessings Flower. Blessings Flower from Malawi. Remember we had two people from Malawi that we hosted this year. So there was Blessing Flower, and then there was another one. I think we will get to that one. And Blessings here, I remember his theme was keep pushing forward. And he was sharing about, his experience in the communication, space, and also in the digital, space. He's working for Access Agriculture, and how I remember he was even showing that platform where people can actually get a bit of information. It's information that is free. They develop, videos to assist, farmers who are in the rural areas. And what stood out for me is when he shared about, this smart projector, where they have, this projector which they use in the rural areas where there is no electricity, but then this projector uses solar energy. And with that, they are able to showcase, videos and in the rural areas, and they train young people who become entrepreneurs in that space. I think it was something unique, but it was something really worth, listening to, and we're so inspired about that. And yes, keep pushing forward. So our next guest. Hey, Madla, this one I give it to you. The poet from the UK, Elliot Msindo. A word written or spoken can change the world. What do you remember about this one? Mandla, I can't hear you. Okay. Uh, what I remember with Elliot was how he moved from Zimbabwe, and he moved to the UK, and he was very excited about it. And but when he got there, he started, realizing that things are not as rosy as he thought. And he started, finding his voice through writing, and he wrote a book about Welcome to London. I can't remember if that was the the title, but it is something London. And from there, he started writing poetry. But what I find unique around his poetry is that he's using poetry to address challenges like mental health, and some things that we don't necessarily talk about. So he really has a very unique way of bringing the poetic words into addressing things like mental health, gender-based violence, but he using poetry. That was so beautiful, and I started following him on social media. Oh, he's so amazing. He hosts, our poetry sessions in the UK where he is. And yes, it is somebody really worth, following if you want to be inspired, especially if you want to venture into poetry and, authorship and the like. Hmm. Let's get to the next one. Mandla, if you can hear me, you might need to unmute yourself. Whoa. Then on the 9th of April, we hosted Dr. Temba Mongalele Maluleke. His theme was Your Humble Heart Beats. It says it all. He's a cardiologist. I remember his story was so inspiring. When he, what I picked from his story is, if you know your destiny, if you know where you want to be, if there are some how should I call, if there are some hurdles on the way that is stopping you from reaching your destiny, do not give up. I remember in his story, he said when he was at high school, he knew that he wanted to become a medical doctor, but I think he didn't qualify, or maybe he was not accepted first time to become a medical doctor. Then he actually diverted a bit, and he studied to become a pharmacist. So he became a pharmacist. And when he became a pharmacist, then he still wanted to become a medical doctor. Then he continued to study, further and he became a medical doctor. But now we asked him, why did he choose to specialize in cardiology? He said his story was really, really touching. It actually is vividly playing in my head because he had a sister who passed away, I think, because of heart-related, problems, I think. And back then in the rural areas, he realized that, people, if there was a cardiologist close by, his sister would not have died. He would have been saved. It was out of the tragedy where he said no one should die of heart-related challenges without really getting help of a cardiologist. So he decided to go and study. What stood out for me also in his story, it's that he's a well, renowned, cardiologist, but he also does a lot of, outreach related work in order to reach out, to people who under normal circumstances could not, afford, or under normal circumstances could not have access, to these kind of services. And thumbs up and thank you so much, Dr. Manuleke, for gracing our show. And yes, your humble heart beats indeed. Mandla, do you remember your humble heart beats?
Indeed, I do. And what stood out for me was his humbleness. So it wasn't only about the humble heart that he was talking about, but he personified what humbleness is given his credentials. So that was a very big takeaway lesson for me.
Absolutely. Okay, so in the next 15 minutes that is left, you are right, an hour just goes so fast. Okay, so let's see. We go a little bit, fast and just maybe some major highlights. Let's see. But it's not possible. It's not possible, Manda, to go fast because every time a picture comes, oh my God, like this one now. Prof. Shope Williams, how can you not spend an hour talking about what she spoke about? Do you remember her theme was gender and corruption.
I remember her vividly so well. And what stood out for me was when he said two things about Nigerians. Number one, they are very intelligent. One of the most intelligent people in Africa. But number two, if you get them in the wrong space, that intelligence can mess you up big time. I remember we worked so hard, but that was one truth that even now I don't forget when I go around between you people.
Yeah. What stood out for me is her approach to dealing with gender issues. So you remember we had, Jabu, who's also dealing with gender, but this one she's dealing with gender and corruption. And the kind of research work that she does around gender, it's not your typical research where we're talking about gender mainstreaming, but it's really looking at how gender in the corporate, space, raises its head and all that. For me, that was so unique. I had never had somebody, or maybe I had never had somebody close who was looking at gender from that angle. And I think for me, that really stood out. And when she was sharing about, her accolades and awards, that she won for her excellence work in the research space, that for me was something that stood out. And I'm looking at this picture, her smile. It's, you just feel like you want to talk to her more. And thank you again, Prof. Shope Williams, for really gracing our show. We really appreciate. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Okay. So Mandla, really, really, oh, okay. Remember I was talking about the two Malawian people that we hosted. The first one was Blessing, and the second was Mr. Rex Chapota. And he was talking about igniting youth for development. He's the CEO of the National Youth Council in Malawi. What comes to mind when you see Mr. Rex Chapota?
A champion for youth, and he gave us plenty of examples of how he managed to even unlock budgets, hidden budgets towards, the emancipation of the youth. That came out so strong for me.
Yeah. And how he's even going like to parliament, and really, really, really his passion for youth was unmatched. So he has this passion when there are roadblocks or when there are ceilings, he does everything in his power to really go and unlock, resources and unlock opportunities to actually, get, the youth in Malawi to grab, these opportunities. That for me stood out. And for him and Mr. Baloy, because Mr. Baloy he's a spokesperson. So you could tell as he was talking that, you're talking to somebody who's a spokesperson. So Mr. Rex, remember he used to work, for farm radio, and so communications, it's his bread and butter. And you could feel, the communication skills and the passion as we were talking to him. I can literally hear him in my ears, speaking to me, even just, looking at the picture. This is what the experience, the African experience does, to you. Okay, so let's get to the next one. Beautiful experiences indeed. Oh, this one I give it to you, Mandla. Mr. William Shumba. Shumba Innovations and Projects. My entrepreneurial.
In a way, this one, they had me thinking I need to change my kitchen. They had me thinking I need to change my kitchen because those world-class kitchens I saw, I could not believe that this is started by a Black entrepreneur. That was such a prideful moment for me.
It is. Because, I mean, you see that, I remember we will see your big companies like your Easy Life Kitchens and I don't know what and whatever. This is what we grew up associating, that kind of innovations with those big companies. And when you see somebody who looks like me, who speaks my language, and doing these amazing things, and you go like, hey, African child, it is possible. If I quote you, because I know you always like to say that African child, it is possible. It is possible indeed. And also for him coming from very, very humble beginning and where he is now, I remember he was like building, his warehouse of some sort and things like that. Yeah. Wow, this is the African experience, ladies and gentlemen. We are just going through the reflecting on, the different guests that we had. When we started the show, we thought we could just run through them, but we realized that we won't be doing any justice. So we'll just, touch on those who will be able to in the next 10 minutes. And yeah, and we leave the rest, for another day. Let's see the next one. Manda, as DJ Messi is bringing the next one. Okay, we are here. The brand of the future, Mr. Clifford Manganyi, Engine Jeans.
Yeah, this is another one that is a very inspiring story that shows that it's possible, because he was a few years older than me, I think, in high school. So these are people that one grew up seeing Bangenarawo, Mestekian and whatnot. But now for him to be owning such a big brand and based in Cape Town and making things happen, that for me was like, wow, indeed, Black child, it is possible.
It is. And I mean, after the show, I couldn't help it. I mean, I went and bought, I bought, the hoodie. So when I'm traveling, I put on the hoodie and I say, Engine Jeans and the brand of the future. And I'm like, This is it. And what I see with everyone who has succeeded is consistency. They start, they fall, they get up, they push. Consistency. This is what we have seen with everyone that has actually succeeded in their journey. Let's get to the next one. We can still maybe to take two or three more. Ah, the African Unite, the migration lens. Mr. Zoe Nkongolo, the director of the African Unite. Do you remember him? What stood out for me, I remember his journey as an engineer coming from DRC. He found himself in South Africa. He's speaking French. He doesn't speak a word of English. And as he go through, these immigration challenges and all that, and he finds a niche in educating, people. And then fast forward, there's this Africa Unite organization that is up and running, and they are supporting, the integration of, immigrants, and, South Africans, and it was such a beautiful story and journey just to listen to him. And I thought, no, maybe I should learn another language, because sometimes we say, when you are older, it's not possible, it's difficult to learn a new language. But he did it. He speaks
Yeah,
English, speaks perfectly.
yeah. I think what I learned from this show
Hmm.
is how easy for other Africans who come to our shores as South Africa, for them to be able to risk all that they have to chase their passion.
Hmm.
And it got me thinking, Kasi, what is happening with us? We seem to be having a lot of opportunities that other people can see from outside, but we are failing to see from the inside.
Yep.
So that is what I got from that interview.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, the work, that they do is really, really amazing. So, ladies and gentlemen, we encourage you to visit, the Africa Unite websites and look at, the beautiful work, that they do. And I think they are based here in Cape Town. Okay, so let's take the next one. Ah, here I have to start singing. Hey, Juliana. Oh, Jeff Maluleke, the award-winning Afro Jeff artist. His theme was music is the language of my emotions. I,
This was so great. Yeah.
I have a very soft spot, for Jeff because my daughter is Juliana, and I named my daughter Juliana based on his song Juliana. What stood out for me is how he used music to overcome challenges. Remember, he said he used to stutter a lot.
Mhm.
He used to stutter, and people will mock him and all that. But when he got to sing, he realized that the stuttering was not happening. He was able to actually utter and communicate. And that's how he found, his passion for singing. Oh, his music. I love him. I
The
love him.
superpowers there for me was like, oh my goodness, miracles do happen. How do you explain someone stuttering when they're talking, but when they start singing, the stutter
Yeah.
disappears? That was for me like miracles.
Mm. And beautiful, beautiful music that he plays. Surely Juliana and Bzala Bzashintu, I loved it. Bzanzi Rilisa, Bzala Lebzi, Bzashintu. It's one of my favorite songs as well, and a lot. Yo Kilimanjaro and a lot. Go on, Spotify and get, his music, and also listen to the podcast and listen to how he has actually moved, through his journey to become, this renowned musician that he is. I think we still have a bit of time to take one more. Let's see who's the lucky one. Ah, yes, definitely this one. I mean, I'm biased because he's Ngwenya, right? Innocent Ngwenya. Remember, understanding the language of animals is virtue. Oh,
Yeah, that was something else when he shared his actual stories with animals. No, that was something else.
yeah,
That was something else. Mind blowing to say the least.
yeah. And the way they are able as the head animal tracker, he shared how they are tracking animals and how they land. I remember he said he's able to tell that the animal that passed here is a lion and this lion is hungry or this lion is injured or whatever, just by looking at the track. And I'm like, yo. Ha, it's such a wealth of experience and wealth of knowledge. The other thing, I mean, as we are talking, I'm just shivering because he was sharing the story of I think there were lions and I don't know what, and we asked him, so okay, then they sometimes even sleep on the tree and I don't know, but anyway, that was such a beautiful show that we had, and we got so educated. Mandla, I think we're gonna leave it here for today because this is what we have time for. But it is to encourage our listeners to go back. If you feel down, go back and listen to this podcast because you'll never be the same again after listening, to this. Yeah. Mandla.
Indeed,
Mm,
people should, never hide their talent from the world. The world is waiting to hear what you have. You know that analogy of we are born clenching our fist because that's the talent that you are born with. And
mm,
then when you live through life, you open your fist so you can release that talent to the world. So to every black child sitting there mopping, thinking that's it about me. No,
mm,
it's not over until it's over. We're still waiting for you to unclench that talent and shower
absolutely.
us with your talent. Yes.
Absolutely. Manda, I think we should really make time. Like what we have done, if we could just have like a snippet of, the highlights of their stories and what stood out, it could be a very nice, African experience, series that we could actually put. But anyway, thank you. And thank you, DJ Messi, our technical producer. We really thank you. This show is not possible without you. We appreciate you, we recognize you, and we thank you. Thank you so much. We want to thank, Pastor Strike and the Bold Move Radio for giving us this platform to unleash and talk about African experience and listening to different people, different stories, which inspire us, but also inspire our listeners out there. Your last word, your parting shot, Mandla.
So this is our last show for the year, and we'll meet again in the future. So people should have a very beautiful Christmas. I wish everyone peace, joy, love, and happiness. Go and rest and come back 2025 rejuvenated. All the best.
Absolutely. And thank you so much to you, my beautiful co-host, Mandla Aventina Wakamamunda. It is always a pleasure, talking to you and laughing. And I feel inspired by you as well as a person and the journey that you have actually walked. And thank you so much for partnering with me on this beautiful show. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we have time for today. We are saying good luck as you actually venture into the festive season. There are a lot of festivity, there are a lot of excitement, and we say God bless and have a restful festive season. This is the African experience with me, Dr. Hlami Ngwenya, with Mandla Aventina Mabunda and Bold Move Radio. Thank you so much and God bless.
Thank you. Bye.